I'm very happy to have you here today and to tell us about VUSE-XR. And also, Daniel, thank you for giving us some technical insights. And I'll hand over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So it's a pleasure for Daniel and me to be here. We'll introduce you today a bit into the capabilities of our VUSE-XR hub and why we do things. So this is actually how we kick off. So why we chose extended realities as the answer to some of the most pressing industry topics and challenges. So you need to be here for 10 to 12 minutes, me presenting some slides and some context. I will keep this as short as possible. Whenever you have questions, please raise your hand and just ask them. And afterwards, Daniel will be taking over, deep diving into the tool as such. So you will learn today how to create immersive content in seconds, minutes, or very few hours, depending on how complex your content must be. So from data to mixed reality twin in just a few seconds, and from your mixed reality twin to a working training concept, learning concept, in just a couple of steps. So this will be presented by Daniel, who is heading our product development and product design team. And I'm overseeing strategy, finance, sales, and founded VUSE-XR 2 years ago with a small team in Freiburg, southern Germany, so not too far away from you guys. Okay, let's kick things off. I will be going to the next slide. So VUSE-XR in a nutshell, we are founded in 2023, so still pretty young, but already grew to a certain and decent size. We're headquartered in Freiburg with a multidisciplinary team, mainly coming from the physics, chemical, bioengineering set of things, which comes due to our focus on industrial and life sciences applications. So we are a B2B company, and now, of course, extending our academic partnerships. That's why we're here today. But generally, our B2B software is targeting industrial applications and life sciences teams across the globe in complex product training and sales visualizations. We have an award-winning technology. We have just been awarded the Metaverse Champion Prize by the state of Baden-Württemberg, having an innovative and state-of-the-art XR do-it-yourself creation tool, the VUSE-XR Hub. Looking at industry partners, you see that we have a focus on medtech and on machinery. So we even have one of our customers in the meeting today, Christian. So thanks for being here. And driving our academic partnerships, now also with TH Rosenheim, which you found on the lower end of the slides. Yeah. Having said this, a quick overview of extended reality. So XR, we see there's augmented reality, there's virtual reality, and there's mixed reality. And especially in the industrial context, most decision makers are not quite sure what this exactly means and which sub-technology to use to target the specific challenge at hand. So when it comes to AR, starting with AR, it's of course easy to access and also the biggest buzzword across the sub-technologies, I'd say, that enhances real-world tasks. However, it's very limited when it comes to the interaction of the virtual objects. So it's more pressing digital elements into the real world. And object recognition really remains a technical challenge. So depending on the hardware we are using, the actual object recognition is limited. So from our specific point of view, AR is not yet there based on the support from the technologies and the hardware itself. We are all looking forward to Meta opening up the camera feed later this year, hopefully, as they announced, which will...
It's already open.
It's already open. Yes, but you can't integrate it into web technologies. So that's the thing. You can only integrate it into native apps. Okay. But the big lift is coming with integration into web technologies and into WebXR, which is our standard. So it's already open, but the big lift, I think, will come with the web integrations. Okay. Once this has happened, I think AR will also receive a bigger push based on the meta adjustments. Speaking about virtual reality, we, of course, this is the technology being around for a very long time. I'd say it has been standard, especially during COVID times in the life sciences sectors. Very great for specific simulations in distinct environments, but of course limited to VR hardware. And we still see, especially in the industrial context, adoption barriers for VR technology because people get beamed away, so to say. And the ease of use is not always there. So we see limitations in adoption. And everything is about adoption because you want to have people using content and going into the tech world. And last but not least, mixed reality, according to our current assessment, the strongest subcategory and the subcategory that is getting the biggest drivers and the biggest growth rates these days. So combining the real and virtual objects is the big plus here. We have the interactive and spatial objects. Hand tracking is something everybody wants to use and is happy to use, and people always have the "oh wow, that's possible" event when using hand tracking for the first time. It requires advanced hardware to a certain extent, but it's not limited to the XR headset. So you'll see in a sec, we really try to combine the strengths of the XR VR headsets, but also with the comfort of traditional media, traditional devices, screen-based content consumption. So for us, mixed reality is the current focus point, considering all these pros and cons that we see in the industry applications. Technology and businesses are really driving also XR these days. So we have a perfect balance between immersion and awareness of surroundings, and have this hands-on learning and ease of use that is really making adoption big. So far, so good to the technology itself. Let's speak about real-world applications. So if you look in the corporate ecosystem, almost the whole value chain and the whole corporate functions, or all corporate functions, may be a target for XR adoption or mixed reality adoption, MR adoption. Especially the lower parts of that circle, the upper parts of that circle here are prone to MR implementation, which is training, which onboarding and skills development, production, when we speak about assembly instructions, error prevention, error rates reduction, and service. Especially the service teams are usually the first one in an organization to adopt XR technologies, and from there it's spreading throughout the organization. Also, HR lately was focus for XR technologies with AI agents doing soft skill training. This is not a focus for us at VUSE-XR, but it's a bigger movement in the whole industry that HR and skills development at the soft skill level via the integration of AI agents is a booming thing in XR tech. Speaking about industries, and this is very close to our heart because we come from the industry and we are an industry solution. Machinery, life sciences, and automotive are certainly the industries driving XR and having highest adoption rates. Automotive, of course, with the recent difficulties in the market economies, started cutting budgets. I know from quite some companies or XR companies that they didn't receive so much funding from automotive as they used to before. So life sciences is certainly a very, very nice sweet spot for XR companies to start their journey because we have advanced operators, advanced people in the companies, and also quite some R&D budget to integrate these technologies. Machinery to the same extent. Here, more the value-based argumentation is important to make it into these companies. Last but not least, what is shaping the future of XR from our perspective? So we see that it's focused around three main topics. It's AI integration in terms of fast content creation, tailored experiences, and minimizing the hurdles of starting with XR, looking on it from an organizational perspective. For us, it's a big roadmap topic for 2026. We're currently preparing everything to integrate the first AI agents into our content creation process, though it still remains in pilot cases in most applications where I saw it the last month. Second is hardware advancements, lighter, cheaper, more powerful. I think we don't need to go into details here. And third, XR is becoming a real business. So our partners really want to earn money with XR. We see that XR stores and XR marketplaces start to lift, so to say, and start to boom. Our customers really want to commercialize, and their customers accept it to have XR content libraries, learning libraries they pay money for. With this, just some last big numbers. So the market is there. We're doubling down on AR and VR spending by 2027. We have almost 25 million units of VR headsets sold every year. And that's why we believe in a bright future of XR tech, and we try to be a small player in that big market. And with this, heading over to the actual technology, to the fun part, to seeing how VUSE-XR Hub is working, and handing over to Daniel.
All right, thank you very much. Let me share my screen. So, right, you can share. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, yes, we can see it.
Perfect. I will just. I only have one slide, and then after that, I will jump into the tool because it's the more interesting part, at least for me. And what Niclas didn't really mention yet is that we are working on we as VUSE-XR, we are working on the VUSE-XR Hub. The hub is what we call our tool. So it's the one source of truth for everything, for every input, for every editing, and also for every output. So you access the tool via web, as you already mentioned. We use or apply WebXR as our basic technology to create and share content, and you access it on your web browser, and you can also access it on any HMD or general XR device, and also on any browser, of course. Or question?
Yeah, so that means since you're using WebXR, you are independent from most of the hardware. Is that true? So
Yes.
do you run on MetaQuest, you run on Apple Vision Pro?
Yes.
And also on an iPad or a PC?
iPads are a bit problematic, but we're getting there. We will probably develop a native app for iPads, for iOS in general. Vision OS is a bit special. Vision OS supports WebXR, but iOS is a bit more constrained, let's say.
Okay, so that's a huge benefit for you because you don't have to develop for individual platforms.
Exactly, yes.
When setting up our infrastructure, it was a active decision of going with WebXR. There are, of course, also downsides, right? So it's always some months behind when it comes to the newest SDKs and functionalities. But we don't need to maintain diverse endpoints, and just need a WebXR compatible browser to be concrete, and can integrate into Apple iOS, into Apple Meta devices, and via the web. Yes.
Yes. So it makes implementation much easier. And of course, we also tailor our tools so that it supports these output channels, and so that we want to enable the user to create content that runs on basically all these devices. Yes, that's basically our main goal. I mean, in the beginning, we called it democratize XR, democratize virtual reality. It consists of the input channels and the output channels. The input channels being everything where you put in your files and your knowledge. That would be mainly the asset editor, where you upload and edit your assets, your 3D models mainly, but also PDFs, pictures, or anything else. And then once these assets are in place, basically in your library of assets, you can then put them in your project editor, where you assemble everything in scenes, steps, and interactions. That's the input side. And then on the other side, of course, you have the output, as you already mentioned, every device possible, basically, with a few exceptions. But yeah, we have our main output channels being the 3D viewer and the XR VR channel, and the XR VR channel can run on mobile devices, but also on head-mounted displays, for example. Yeah, question?
Yeah, and from my understanding, it's a no-code environment, correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's what you will see in a few minutes. Yes.
Yeah. That's very interesting because I've seen in many different fields that if you have a code environment, you have less people to work with it, and it just gives you constraints in working with it. So I was a production manager for some time, and I introduced a tool for recording data in production, and that was also a no-code tool. And by that, I could use the technicians and engineers I had in my department, whereas other departments were relying on external sources like R&D department or IT, and they never found time to do those things he won production manager.
I understand.
This is maybe just an anecdote. Before founding VUSE-XR, Daniel and I, so it's a coincidence, we both did that, worked at the agency, at a VR agency. So we come from the old world of software coding, project business, 6 months until your very nice XR or VR project is standing, which from a quality perspective is super nice. However, it's not scalable for the customer. So that has been the whole motivation of starting VUSE-XR, reducing the time from data to XR Twin and from idea to content. That's the whole founding story.
Yeah, or also improvement of you're doing a digital twin and then you get an idea to change something.
Yeah.
If you rely on somebody doing it for you, it's gonna take another month or more.
And a couple of thousands of euros. So that's the second part. Yeah. So it's time and money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. So we really want to make it as easy as possible, meaning we also want to pull as much strings as possible, let's say, from external tools into the hub. Of course, there are ways to create assets in Blender with magnificent textures and everything and animations. And there are ways, of course, to build complex interactions or animations also in Unity or Unreal or other engines for XR. But we wanna try to give as much complexity as possible with as little UI complexity as possible. So really low or no code. At the moment, it's a really no code tool. You can't code in our tool to provide all the content. And all the content that is provided or created in the editors can, of course, also be rolled out to both output channels. So 3D viewer or XR doesn't matter. Of course, when thinking about how to set up a project, you have to keep in mind what you want to optimize it for. If you want to use it, optimize it for a web application where people are only look at it in the browser, or if you want to optimize it for a purely XR focused experience. But that's small details that we will come to later. I would say, so as you saw in the slide previously, there are input and output channels. I will first focus on the two input channels, so the asset editor and the project editor, show you a bit how it's done, what you can do. And then I will also show you some examples of how this then transfers into XR. You can simply drag and drop any 3D file, for example. Almost every 3D or CAD model is recognized by our tool. So it can even be a step file or anything else you have lying around. Sometimes it makes sense to take some parts out of the step file before you put it into the hub, because if you have 40,000 parts in your file, you will run into problems. You have to delete them somewhere. In such cases, it's easier to delete them externally. Just one example. But other than that, like if you have a car and it has, as we see here, 47 parts right now, you can just, if it's a step file, you can drag and drop it and it's uploaded. We have a question.
Yeah. So you support standard files like OBJ.
Yes.
STL, but there's no cover to it.
FBX, GLB, GLTF, yes, and almost any CAD format, yes.
How about USD or USDZ?
I think our tool supports it. I don't think we tried it before. So the CAD to GLB, we use GLB as an internal format. The CAD to GLB pipeline, I think, supports USDC. I think it's the Apple format, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think we tried it. I didn't try it yet.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So also any FBX file or any OBJ file or whatever is always converted into a GLB file, which is the format we work internally with, just to make it easier for our importer that later loads the files also then in the application in XR, for example.
Yes.
After you uploaded your file, you have first, what I always do is I check the performance. And so we have a few metrics that we can access right away. So for example, the meshes, draw calls, and triangles, which are of course always important. The memory, a bit minor important, but if you have 1 GB of files you have to load on your headset, take some time. So of course you also want to optimize that. For high poly assets, there are options to optimize it. So for example, if you have something above 1 billion or 300,000 polygons, you can just choose the option here and say, okay, I want to optimize it to a really low poly count. You click on this and then it takes, I think, a few seconds, it should be, to optimize. Let's hope this works now. And you get from whatever you are, 300,000 polys to, in this case, 30,000. We have a few bumps, so you can also say you want to have it at 100,000 or 200,000, depending on your experience, and if you want to set your experience, your scene later up with multiple objects, or if maybe this is the only object of choice that you want to look at. Yeah. Question?
Yeah. Is that reduction somehow intelligent? So does it take into consideration the curvature?
Yes.
It leaves more polygons if you have curves, and if you have a flat table,
yes,
you reduce it to minimum 2 polygons.
Yeah, so there are some thresholds, of course. It has some intelligent thinking. It deletes polygons that make no sense, for example, loose dots, so to say, and it recognizes edges and curves and so on.
Okay.
We thought about giving all these choices to the user, but then it probably makes more sense to just make that all internally and just give the user the choice about the poly count, which is the most important. We will probably also implement the feature to give the user the choice to remove occluded geometry if you only want to look at the shell, for example, and all the inner parts are not important. So you see the optimization went through. You can also see I already did some optimization of this model before, and now this one has a poly count of 30,000. And I can also switch to the other one. I think this one is the 100,000. Yeah, so 99.99. So you have options to optimize your assets, and that's of course the first step. And you can also give it a few colors or rearrange stuff. So if you want to make all the glasses in the color, if you want to give them like a blue color, make them a bit transparent, that is possible here. So, yeah, depending on what you like, maybe you have painted glass, maybe it's a bit more black. You can do it however you want. Right now, you can give them a lot of color free of choice. You can we have some predefined materials, and metalness and roughness you can also define. Textures, real textures with effects and everything are not included yet, but that's also a feature we will work on soon. And then, of course, you can also move parts. So if you want to place the glass somewhere else, or if you want to fully remove the glass, then that's possible. So you can have some tools to.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Do you have a back function so that you can go back and have the.
In this case, we don't have an undo redo function yet, but we have a undo changes. So we go back to the last save state, which was in this case after the optimization. So yeah, now the glass is back.
Okay.
Soon we will also have undo a few steps, like up to 5 steps you can undo.
Yeah. And another question, you mentioned you can take away occluded parts, but when it comes to XR, are you using occlusion when you use it in XR? So if I place my hand in front of a virtual object, will part of the object be occluded by my hand, or will it appear in front of my hand?
Your hand is, so we have the, your real hand is behind, but we have a virtual, let's say a virtual clone of your hand, right? Visualization, which is visible. So you will see your hands in a way, yes.
Okay, but it's yeah, we have that application sometimes when we want to do an assembly training, for example, and we have a fixture, for example, in one of our projects now with a company doing composite materials. And so they have a metal fixture and you have to place material onto it. And we wanted to show where the material has to be. And if you have it placed on the object and then use your hand to place the real material there, the virtual material will appear on top of your hand, which is kind of irritating.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, yes, the virtual objects, the real objects you wouldn't see. You would see your hand in a way, but yeah, it takes some thought, some concentration.
I know if you use occlusion in the XR environment, it will take performance. So this is why currently it's not used so frequently.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's the same for our tool.
Yeah.
You can just a few more hints what you can do here. So as I mentioned, you can modify the materials, you can modify the whole asset or the sub assets. You can add some sub nodes. For example, if you want to rearrange nodes into each other, you can drag and drop them, or say you want to let's say here you want to have a new sub node. You rename it. Maybe you put all the glasses in one node, etc., etc. Depending on what you exactly want to show. Maybe you want to have all the glasses later to fly out of the car or whatever. You can, of course, create copies of your car. So if you want to have a blue and a red car, one with or without glasses, you can do that as well. You have to save, of course, before you do a copy. And you can also add some descriptions if you would like. So this is the gray car, for example. That's, I think, most of the important info for the asset editor itself. Now going to the project editor. And since Christian is here, I thought I would just pull up one of the it's not the project that we used with them, but it's one of the internal test and review projects that we made for them to have a look at the scene itself. So this is the PowerPay here from Scheid and Bachmann. And you can see the Alphen charging station, EV charging station, and the car itself, and the credit card. So those are basically objects that were dropped here in the scene. So I can also here let's go to EV car and put this car in the scene. And you see it's the same car. I will just delete it again so it doesn't disturb us for the rest of the session. But that's basically how drag and dropping assets here works. You can also upload files right here if you just have like, I don't know, a very small, not maybe too important asset that you already have prepared. You can just upload it right in the editor and place it in the scene. And you can also create some special assets right now. Special assets in these cases means cables. We just defined that feature for adding cables to your scene. You can adjust them in different ways, for example, diameters, but that's just a small feature. Maybe not important for now. Generally, you have your scene here, every asset placed in there. You can navigate around as you would in most of the 3D tools you know from somewhere else. And you can click on everything, of course. The parts are then displayed here on the left. They are highlighted, so you can see what you're looking at. You can, of course, also click here. You can set different backgrounds. So you can, for example, one of our standards are those misty backgrounds, HDR eyes. And we have a grass field here and a chalk quarry. We also want to go towards applying a user feature where you can upload HDR eyes or 360 files, but we're not there yet. And this one's my personal favorite because I like sunsets. And similar to the asset editor, you have a little performance dashboard. Of course, in this case, the performance dashboard covers the performance of the whole scene, which is the most important for you. So you want to see how much is draw call for this project or for this scene, to be specific, if I load it in my headset, just so you can take that into account and maybe optimize if needed.
I have a question for the import. So you showed importing another car. Will it be always imported to the 000 origin of the
Yes.
scene? Okay.
Yes. So every file you select here is basically then placed in the middle here.
Mhm.
And then you can move it around, rotate. You can also adjust the size. So
So you don't have to search for it, that it is somewhere in. Okay, good.
exactly, yeah. So you place it in the middle. It's always set with scale 111, and then you can adjust it, can rotate it. You don't have to search for it, of course. It's always there. The red arrow marks the middle of the experience of the scene. If you are using a head-mounted display, that is also the place where the user spawns. So the reference point from the headset to all the different assets.
Mhm.
And a bit bigger again.
I think important to mention is that you do not need to move things around only with the cursor. You can also place them mathematically correct with the X, Y, and Z coordinates. So
Exactly.
if you know it's 20 centimeters, you can just, as Daniel is showing, apply 20 centimeters as a distance.
Or rotate it 40 feet,
So we have a
45
question
degrees.
from Arun.
From Arun, yes.
So is there any option to place the objects with reference to the other object which has already been placed, or it has to be 000?
Right now it has to be 000. We
Okay.
are thinking about snapping files to each other and to planes, for example, which I think is a very nice addition at one point. But yeah, right now it's basically fiddling around with the controls to find the perfect spot.
Okay.
You can of course do some change to some different views here on the upper right side, for example, to have the perfect straight view. But yeah, if it comes to assets that are maybe positioned in an angle, it's adjustments, fine tuning that you just have to do at one point.
Okay.
So that's the basic, let's say, placement and setting up a scene, making sure that everything is in the right spot. Of course, you can set your camera like this and have a rough idea if everything is positioned correctly. You can also, at this point, just save it and pull up the same experience in XR and have a look at it. Or if you already know what you're doing, you can just go right away and add the content. So the actual content that is interesting. Because looking is nice, but doing is nicer.
Okay.
And that would be the transition from the assets tab to the steps tab. If you look at the left side here of the screen, there's assets and then there's steps. And the steps are what you make of your assets. And I added some test steps here to step 1 and step 2. Both have one interaction or one content yet, and you can just go ahead and add additional content. If you look, for example, at this one, it's grab and place. And as a user, I would grab and place the credit card here in front of the PowerPay. Basic interaction. It's also possible to do a grab and move, grab and rotate. So grab and move along a defined path, or grab and rotate around a defined point of origin or axis during the origin. And then there are a few additional sophisticated interaction types: animation, highlight, explosion view, cutting plane, a UI interaction where you can display content, or a simple trigger interaction. I will show all of them with a bit more detail as well. Is that an answer to your question?
Yeah, okay. I can wait when you see our. I was
Okay.
what grab and place means. So you will display that there's the destination place with a transparent object, and then you can take it and move it in all dimensions until it gets to the transparent ghost object where it
exactly.
should. Okay.
So grab and place in XR terms means that when you grab it, so first off, there is a highlight or a guidance system in XR itself, which will display you everything you need to know, because XR, it can be guided, but it will mostly be a self-guided interaction sequence. And you will also see more about that later. about the different guidance elements that we have. But yeah, grab and place would be just a simple, in this case, I defined grab the credit card and place it here. And I can just adjust it whatever way I want. I can, of course, also rotate it around, however the credit card in this case needs to be placed in front of the device.
How do you assign the grab and place? So we get into steps, and this was assigned to the credit card. So where do you select the credit card grab and place?
Exactly. So I would now add basically one interaction per type and then explain it with a little more detail. But good question. So the first step, you basically click on the plus and select one interaction type. Grab and place, which I just described, is then basically defined as you grab one object and place it somewhere. This can be the whole asset. So, for example, I could grab the whole charging station. I could grab the car if I want, or I grab the credit card again, and then I place it, for example, on the left. I can, if the object itself has a subnode. So, for example, if I select the car and I select a subnode, now of course I have to know what I'm looking for. But let's say I want to take the glass. So in this case, the user would need to grab the glass and place it on the side. So subnodes are available as well.
So that's good for assembly or disassembly relations.
Exactly. So the basic idea is you import the whole device with all parts, components, and then you can sub-select here the parts and components. That it's important to have the nodes available for interaction. Otherwise, you would need to import 20 parts to have one device. So that's where we always go from the head product, so to say.
Yeah.
For each step, then you can then add some, in this case, audio descriptions, for example. So you grab and place this somewhere. And you can also select different languages. I'll just delete them again because otherwise it will throw errors. But they are auto not translated, but like transformed into voiceovers then, which you can listen to in the 3D viewer or in XR. So when the step is activated, as in this case, when the step prior to this one is finished, for example, by placing the credit card here, the voiceover of this step is then playing back to you and telling you what to do, additional to the hologram that you see. So in this case, if I was in XR, I would see the glass is highlighted. Then I grab the glass, and when I grab the highlighted glass, I see that there is a hologram appearing on the left side, and then for the user, it is in most cases then pretty obvious. Okay, I need to place it there. For the 3D viewer, you can set additional viewpoints, meaning you will see that later what that actually means. But of course, we don't want the end user to fly around and search for the perfect position. Of course, I, as the product specialist in this case for the car or for the PowerPay or for the charging station, I know how to look at which interaction sequence. So I say, okay, when this window is grabbed and placed somewhere, then I want the viewpoint to be like this. So in the tool later in the output channel, the camera will automatically go in that position and look at the car or at the window. And you can also show additional assets. So if you would like during this sequence to show something, let's just take something simple maybe here. The logo from one of the Scheitenbachmann product series. So when the user grabs the glass or when the step is active, they will also see, in this case, the picture displayed in the back. Which of course I can also transform as I would like to. The system itself was not developed for simple grab and place, but more for screen interactions, for example, on the PowerPay like this. But it can be used for many different purposes, which is basically the case for most of our tools and features in the VUSE-XR hub. So you can let's say, abuse them for whatever you want them to do. You can, in this case, it doesn't need to be a PDF or picture. It can also be a 3D file. So if you would like to have a trash can appear and you want to throw the glass into a trash can, that is totally possible.
There comes another to my mind, but it's a little bit ahead. So when you created all this, you probably want to give access to a user by just scanning a QR code, which will read your demo, your simulation. Is that possible, or how do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's possible. So there are, I mean, that's a bit forward, but with regards to the output channels, we have different ways of making it publicly available, for example. Not fully publicly, but you can create links and of course also hide these links behind QR codes if you would like, or put them in a e-learning course where people can click on it, or whatever you can imagine. Next to that, you also have the account-based sharing, of course.
Daniel, maybe it would make sense now, before we go into all the other interaction types, to go into the sharing, because then we see the whole flow.
Let me just quickly play through one of the sequences. So in this case, I will just click forward. You don't hear it right now, but there are voiceovers playing all the time. It's not important. It's annoying to hear all the voiceovers. I will just click through it. I will even move it a little bit here. You see there's an animation, and then now there's a disassembly procedure of the whole gear. As user, I would have to perform all these steps. I'm using it in the web browser now. Of course, this was designed for XR mainly. So in XR, it's a nice interaction sequence. I will show XR later.
And so the animation you've seen, the rotation of that is also something you can assign in your environment.
Exactly, yes. So placing a screwdriver, rotating the screwdriver, then placing the screwdriver back. Then I will click maybe a bit faster because not everything is very interesting here. But all the screws are removed. The ball bearing is removed.
Maybe you can enlarge the text file so we see what the voiceover would say. So what the text you see on the left is exactly what you get as the voiceover, and what you put as the audio description.
Exactly. So let's go a bit forward. Let's see. All the pieces are flying down. So in this case, maybe what's interesting here, there are a few UI interactions in between. You can put pictures in them, of course, and they are just a way to convey, for example, some additional information that is interesting, or that the user should actually read, maybe, or look at.
Another question comes to my mind. So we are collaborating with a restoring company of antique cars, and they want to do something like this for instructions. So when they get a car from a customer, like a Ferrari, and they do a service, they would like to easily create something like this, but usually they don't have 3D models from a Ferrari from 1950 or so. So in the project last year, we used scanning technology to scan objects, and you get in a short time quite good scans, but usually with too many polygons. So if we would use your tool, there would be functionality to reduce it. So that would be something I would like to try out. And my question is, do you have other customers which are not coming from CAD models, like this is a CAD model, rather than from scan data? And what is your experience on this?
Yes. So it's a commonly requested feature to also use files that were, for example, created with Gaussian splatting or different other ways of creating them from 3D, not 3D, but 2D information, for example, or from scans or so. It is, I mean, there are some problems that come with these files, which are mainly that they are typically one file, which, I mean, you can work around that in a way. Not completely in our tool, but generally, yes, it's a requested feature, and people wanna do that more and more. Especially if you consider that some of these, I mean, even these construction companies that create devices like this gear, they most of the time they have the gear itself, of course, but they maybe don't have the additional tools. So they also want to have ways to maybe scan their tools. Just ideally, of course, with an iPhone, just going around it, uploading it as a GLB file into our tool, using that tool. Then in the training, for example, yes.
It's certainly a initiative and movement of the market we see and we observe, and we also need to integrate scanning technologies. Right now, we don't have a real-time integration of certain technology tools. But what Daniel said is right. So the custom requirement on our end is, hey, I don't have the CAD data, I want to scan this, or I have a supporting device where there is no CAD data available. And in this case, we look into this case by case. But our usually solution to this is modeling. So handwork for assets we need. So the table you see right here has been simply modeled by our design team to have standard assets. This is oftentimes our answer to this.
Okay.
These days. But of course, an engine from a Ferrari from 1960, hard to model, I'd say. takes months. Yeah. So having your GLBs and your student team scanning this, of course, it's the nicer way.
Yeah, it's a project we're going to do. The next one will be engine from a Ford Model T. And I'm part of a club from Model T owners. And in February, we will have a meeting where we disassemble some engines and usually work on technical issues and learning how to do it. And we'll take some students to scan the parts. So we take apart, we clean, then we scan, and then we assemble again.
Cool.
Also virtually then with all the scanned parts. That's the idea.
Nice.
Very nice.
Do you have experience with good scanning technology? So I tried the big industry scanners from Keyence and Zeiss, so these high-end solutions. But do you have more mobile solutions tested yet?
Yes, we have a scanner in our lab, which costs around 1,000 euros. So it's a very cheap one, but it's good enough for the scans for the visualization. So if you want to do a 3D print from this afterwards and you want to have the very accurate model, then it's probably not the best choice. But when it comes to visualization for training and so on, it's a good choice. And Tom Fisher Classica was kind of amazed that in that price range for 1,000 euros, you can get scanners being capable of doing that.
Nice. I last week I tried a 60K device and was also amazed how capable it is. However, of course, this is quite some investment to do, and I'm interested in a 1K solution as well. So we need to speak, Andreas.
Yeah, no problem. We have 2 scanners I could recommend for you to try.
Nice. Yeah, we speak.
All right. Let me then also just quickly show you how this looks like in XR. It's easier to show a recording than to just jump in XR right away, but I guess most of you know the meta and meta streaming. Of course, you could also stream it right away. This is just one of the, I think it's exactly the training I showed you before in the 3D viewer, recorded by Niclas in this case. And you see there's a simple UI on the left side. He's not really looking at it right now, but there's a UI that you can use to control the main setup and everything. So once you start the setup from you go into the browser on your Oculus, on the Quest 3, for example, go into browser, enter VUSE-XR Hub, log in and choose the training. Then you go into this experience. You have the menu on the side and you can just do the sequence. You just press start, do the sequence. Everything is guided, as you see. Objects are glowing. In this case, you can, of course, stick your head in. And for everything you do, there's basically a little command and also a voiceover, of course, telling you what is happening right now. And there you could see the UI a bit more. You can also grab it and place it somewhere else. And
very nice. Yeah, I really like that.
that's a nice task now. Seeing from XR which actual interaction type we used. So I mean, hopefully you find the one-one relation between these types, but it feels pretty natural. So of course this is a grab and move, right? And this is a grab and place. So I guess you will figure what is.
Yeah.
You could see that there were also some additional, like here you see some tags on the assets. So you can also add some additional layer of guidance if you really have, for example, a new user trying on the headset. Sometimes it makes sense to have this grab flag just right next to it. There he disables it, and yeah, the rest is basically you can here see some animations. So in this case, the part is triggered, and then it flies over some defined path. Technically, this little wheel could rotate with 20,000 rotations per minute for 1 minute if you would like, or do whatever kind of animation you would like. If you want the asset to rotate around the user, that's of course also possible. You can define viewpoints and then like where exactly it goes. I would maybe show a few more additional, maybe not all, but a few more additional interaction types here in the tool and how to set it up, just so you see a little bit and get a feel for how it works. And then you can also ask some more questions if you would like. So maybe adding here one thing, which is a highlight interaction. Highlight meaning you just want to get the attention of the user for one part. In this case, triggering the highlight does nothing except for triggering the next step. And as a user, in this case, for example, I set a color. So in this case, I set a glowing red or glowing green, and in XR, the part would highlight in green. So the user, for example, with the voiceover would get some information about especially this part. Then let's highlight grab and move and grab and rotate are pretty self-explanatory. It's not too interesting, but let's go to the explosion view. So if you select for the explosion view, let's take the Alphen station. The Alphen station is not interesting because it's only one part. Let's take the car maybe. So for an explosion view, for example, you select the interaction. You can choose the scaling factor. So if you want it only to slightly explode, or if you want to fully explode all around the user, it can also rotate around the user completely. So the user standing here in the middle.
Oh, I can't hear you anymore.
Yes, I think now we lost Daniel. I guess he's coming back in a sec. Now you're back.
Okay, perfect. So I was just mentioning you can like also adjust the scaling factor and everything of the car during the explosion interaction, and place it wherever you want. Just put it back somewhere.
And I assume for the explosion you have predefined paths for each part. And how do you determine where the wheel should go to?
So right now it's automated. So the paths, the parameters you define are the explosion factor, which defines how far outwards the explosion goes. And you can define the size, position, and rotation of the final state. So if you wanted to explode and grow in size, for example, and get much bigger, that's possible. You can also let it shrink, of course, if you wanted to explode and just shrink somewhere.
But if I want that to, for example, not go to the floor in Z, for example, more just in X direction?
We will divide the explosion factor into a X, Y, and Z direction. It's not. This is basically the MVP version of the explosion factor. It will soon be possible, yes. So you can basically say it should only explode in the X direction, for example, like in one positive direction, and not in the other two directions. It could be, for example, interesting if you have one asset, you place it on the table, and you want it to like what's it called, like a harmonica, like to explode to the side, for example. I guess you can imagine a lot of different ways to use this. But yes, this will be possible. It's not possible now. And you can also choose the duration of the whole animation. So if you wanted to explode very fast, that's also possible. Or if you wanted to take some more time, then you, for example, 10 or 60 seconds. Then cutting plane is also quite interesting. It's also pretty much a standard exploration tool in many XR applications, and it's, as the name says, it's a cutting plane of, in this case, for example, the car. And you can also choose different, just to show that again, you can also choose different hierarchies. So, for example, if you only want the glass to be cut, then that's also doable. So this you can adjust the angle, for example, and I mean, with this, I guess you can imagine you can also just go down. I think it's slightly it's not really working because of the hitbox, I think, of the asset is a bit off. Or oh no, it's working. Okay, what's the other option? But yeah, you can in this case, for example, just let the window slide down or partially slide it down. And could, of course, also, as you saw before, cut in half the complete car. Or if you want to focus on the PowerPay, you could just take the shell of the PowerPay and let it like disappear in a way.
And that's a typical interaction for complex machinery, right? That where you want to cut away the outer shell and see inside components, or cut 50% through a engine, for instance, to see inside behavior.
Correct. Then you have a UI interaction with the very basic feature of conveying some information, or also in different languages. UI, and of course also here again audio descriptions, and you can add pictures here. So if you want to give the user some more information about how centrifugation works and how to separate two different phases from a sample, then you can do it with that. The last one, which is also quite interesting, is a trigger interaction, which we developed mainly for screen interactions, for example, screen or UI interactions that are bound to objects. So in this case, you can imagine, I scale it down a little bit and fiddle around and then place it here in front of the PowerPay. Ideally, of course, exactly in front of the screen. It's sometimes a bit harder, but yeah, I think you get what I mean. You place a UI here. Of course, you can also have, in this case, what I mentioned earlier.
So that would be a grab and place.
It's a trigger interaction. So what you do in
when the card gets to the trigger, then something happens, or
no, you poke the assigned area. So it's what you technically do is you assign an area that needs to be touched, poked with your fingers, or clicked on, activated, and then you go to the next step. This is what we technically do.
Okay, so like a button interaction.
Correct. It's for screen interactions. It's for buttons, basically. This is where we designed this for.
Yeah, if you place the credit card in front of the terminal, it should enable the payment, for example. So I had in mind, so you take a grab and move, and when your hand is interacting with the trigger while placing it in front, then it will activate. Is it like this?
No. No.
But a nice idea, Andreas. I like how you think.
That's a pretty cool idea. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
How would you do that interaction? Because
the
grab and move has been executed, then the next step will be that you take the pump and fill.
I can tell you how I did it for Schein & Bachmann, here for Christian Lischka. So basically the way we did it was we had the user click through the start screen with triggers, right? And with each trigger, the next step was triggered. And with each next step, a different picture was displayed on the screen, which the new picture was a different picture as a side asset here.
Okay. So it looked like the screen was operating.
it looked like there was something, the asset
Correct.
itself was changing, but it was only active during that step. And so you could, for each step, of course, define one UI or one picture that is in front of the screen. And when there is a interaction where you grab and place the credit card, you would have a present your credit card on the screen displayed here as a picture. And when you presented it, when you place it there, it would switch to now enter your PIN, for example. And then you would trigger the PIN pad and enter your PIN theoretically.
Yeah, Andreas, you remember the video I sent to you?
Yeah.
I can gladly share the video if it helps.
We can also share some material afterwards. We also have the recording of this, like we have this official after movie, right? Of the Scheid and Bachmann experiences.
Oh yeah, I saw that on LinkedIn, and
exactly.
I just thought, oh my God, what I'm talking about.
You were a natural expert, Christian. So don't worry. It's been really great. I got so nice feedback from your interview. So don't worry.
Yeah, it was fun.
So I mean, those are the main interaction types. You can set up like many steps. You add one step after the other. This way, you can add some kind of hierarchy, of course, to your scene, and then you can also add additional scene with either the previous assets, of course. So if you now everything is red because I didn't give the steps names. Our tool doesn't like it when you leave stuff unfinished. So let's do it like this, test. So now everything's not ready anymore. But of course, in this case, another scene, you could, for example, set up another chapter of your training, another chapter, or you want to display something else. Maybe you want to display all the red and blue and green cars that you would like. Then you would, in this case, if you're in XR, you would load a new scene, or as you also will see here or saw here, if you go to this assembly, I will just click through everything. But, basically play through the sequence, do every step, hear all the voiceovers, and then in the end, which would be now, the new scene is loaded in this case. And you can, and here you see, I can also select the scenes separately and the voiceover language as I defined in the tool. And Niclas,
yes, what we're missing, very important, is how to share. I mean, this is what Andreas asked for, right? So experience overview, sharing permissions, revoking. I think that's important.
Yes, correct. So right now we have a simple thing here. You can also, so here are basically all my experiences. And I can, for example, say I want to share test experience 1, which I already shared this with others. It's shared with others, and I can either create a public sharing link, which if I click, for example, here on this one, I can test experience for sharing, submit it, and I can here copy and paste the link, and here you see it's a link. Enter it somewhere, or can enter it here. And this loads the experience, even if I'm not logged in with my account. So this is really a public link. I could go in another browser or share it with you now, and you can have a look at it. And you can also share it directly with other users by entering their user email address. Yeah, it's at the moment it's not super nice looking or beautiful. This will soon be replaced with a slight UI overhaul, and we have some nice sharing system that pretty much looks like the Microsoft Outlook or SharePoint sharing system. So everything is a bit nicer, but it does the job. So it works right now pretty good. You can share with users, so they can log in with their account and then experiences it, or you can share it publicly. The user then she sees the experience in his own account, in his experience overview, and can click on either Start XR Experience or Start 3D Viewer. So 3D Viewer in this case starts this one, the 3D Viewer version of the experience, and Start the XR Experience starts the XR experience itself, which you can also, it's WebXR, so you can access it also in your browser. Of course, if you don't have any device connected, it won't help you a lot. There are ways to access this, of course, with some developer tools, like there are some WebXR integrations for this. So you can also kind of do stuff here in the browser, but that's maybe not the most interesting for you.
Mm-hmm. It's just the developer tool. So
it's just we use it for troubleshooting and everything because it's easier to always jump into the headset. But yeah, it would be the same on the headset. So you have this browser basically open in Oculus. You click on the button and then you see this one. And of course, you would have your hands and see everything.
Mm-hmm.
As you. All right. Now anything I left, Niclas? I think we covered everything.
I think that just the starting page of the VUSE-XR Hub. So you showed the editors, but this is how it looks like when you start our software, right? So you have the asset overview as inputs. You have the experience overview for creating your projects. And of course, you have a small wiki, which is answering the most pressing questions if you encounter any problems. So there's some Q&A, and if you don't find a answer here, you just give us a call, reach out to support@fuse-xr.com or to Daniel directly, who's in charge of our university corporations and helping you to craft the content, to create the projects. As you saw, it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you have a certain problem to solve and to showcase, sometimes it's the mixture of different interaction types and features we're having. And of course, that's not what you know natively. So here, don't hesitate to reach out to us and ask Daniel, and he's gladly supporting.
Yeah, but I think from what you demonstrated, yeah, it gives you the basic functionalities, and you can do a lot of things with combining those.
Yes, certainly. And of course, students oftentimes stretch what's possible in the actual tool. So power users are always welcome to provide feedback. Of course, we learn a lot every week. I'm also always the guy finding the bugs because I behave differently than the developers. So I'm really expecting you guys also to find improvements, to find limitations. Please be patient with us. We are not Microsoft, but we still try to build a very nice, intuitive, and performant tool.
Yeah. And do you remember our Professor Henning from Aachen? And he was giving us a lecture on computer science. And then he was telling about his friend with the destructive mind he always took when he bought a new software. He was doing some interactions which
are unexpected. Yeah. But QA, it's 50% of software development is bug fixing in QA, I'd say. So and the last 50% is really driving ideas and coding new stuff. But more importantly is QA and bug fixing to have a performant solution in the market. Yeah.
And we're always open for new features, new ideas. So I think we grow a lot with our customers. Of course, we have like our own roadmap of features in mind. We have everything laid out for the next few months and also years. But we are always happy to include something that can add value to someone else.
Yeah. So I thank you very much for the insights. So we have some more time, 15 minutes, if we have any questions from the audience. I already was asking a lot of questions during the session. So does somebody from the audience has some questions? Now is the time to ask.
Yes, I would have one question that would be, I can understand that the models are hosted on your server, right? When we upload the assets, then the model will be hosted on your server. And if I would like to change the model, then I delete and create a new one. This is the way we should use the assets.
Yes. So you have basically your own user library. So you have your assets that you upload and that you only have access to. That's correct. And if you would like to change or delete them, you can do that. Yes.
So what we do is we take the CAD or the input, transform it into the GLB, and continue to work with the GLB. We don't store the CAD, right? So that's usually critical information. We host only on European servers that are GDPR compliant and data security compliant. So the data is not transferred to the US if that's a concern at some point. We also have security white papers. So our customers are usually having proprietary data they put into our tool. So it's very important that everything is just laying in S3 buckets, and we don't work with the CAD continuously. The 3D model itself usually is uncritical.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Someone had a question.
So do we have like a trial version to have a hands-on and
you have
explore
you
it?
not only have a don't only have a trial version, you have a full version. So we provided 10 accounts to Andreas, to your professor, to share with the students. So for academic use, that's prohibited that you have the full versions.
Yeah. So if you want to try it out, Arun, I can provide you with one of those licenses for trial.
So that should help. Thank you.
Any other questions? So Christian, what do you say? Now you know how to operate it.
Yeah. Actually, I'm looking forward to try out the next use cases. Yeah, as you know from the introduction, we are an actual customer from VUSE-XR with our company Scheiden-Bachmann. Scheiden-Bachmann, you probably have never heard of, but you probably got in touch with our systems. We make ticket machines, we make parking machines, the barriers, and we make some for better sites. We make. Oh, I can share if you like. If you just want to get an impression of what we are using VUSE for. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the machine, our new machine that we tried out in VUSE, and basically the idea is developing a new ticket machine or a payment terminal is quite expensive. So if you want to test out something on the site like we have here, for example. So this is a payment terminal as it is in use today on one of our sites here. So you see the customer can arrive here and use his card to pay upfront and then select the fueling point where he wants to fill up. And developing the user tests are very critical for the final success in the field. So user acceptance is key. And to get early feedback, you need to have prototypes. And what we did on the last exhibition show, we showed our new payment terminal side by side with the virtual one. So you see we have here our customers trying out the virtual payment terminal within the VR. And this is, as you can see here, what we have here. And these are the experiences that we are currently trying out. And if I start here, I can start it in the background. It takes some while to load. I can also show you the example of how it looks from the first person view. This is what you see. You are in front of the payment terminal. And you start by taking your payment card and hold it in front of the payment terminal. Here, this was the introduction screen where you get a short introduction. And then you see the machine shows you, please present your card. You hold the card in front of the payment terminal. Then you need to enter your PIN and so on. So you see exactly by the same token that Daniel showed you with the other examples, it's a step-by-step instruction on how you proceed to use the payment terminal. And we can also try out new things like showing the customer a QR code and get a feedback from the customer. And one big advantage of doing it inside a virtual reality is you get a very exact impression, a one-by-one impression of the actual size. You can try out how is it for a big person, how is it for a small person, how is it if you are a person in a wheelchair. You can put yourself in a wheelchair, put on the glasses and try out for yourself, are all the buttons, can I reach the buttons, can I use the card reader? And this is far less expensive, and yeah, even more important than the cost is the speed. It's you get very quickly results compared to having to build prototypes.
Mm-hmm. And it's much better than doing it in CAD, where you just look at a tiny screen and
yes, exactly.
one experience if everything is at the right place and if you can reach it. And
exactly. And also for the customers, it's like you're standing in front of the real thing. You also get a budge, so you're much more true to the real thing. Looking at it on a screen doesn't give you the right impression. You have no idea if a person in a wheelchair can use it, and it's much more closer to the real thing if you use it in VR.
Okay. Do we have any other questions left? Johanna, do you have a question? It was the first time you were joining our meeting.
Andreas says, you know, I'm still learning, so I'm listening first.
Okay.
Oh, to your 360 degrees images, oftentimes they're used as backgrounds in these environments. So, and then you have some interaction in the middle, but you still have the impression of the 360 degree images around. So that's probably good to know for you that these are integratable into immersive technologies. Yeah.
Maybe one last story from my end, because what you saw now today was mostly like training and some showcases for sales in this case. I also did one thing for TU Darmstadt actually, which was a museum in XR. And what I did there is I actually they had some files from their architecture students, and I really placed a lot of huge walls. It was like a 100-meter large hall, all the walls, all the ceilings, and so everything in there. I placed some pictures in there, and even like a miniature city with some planes flying around in the city, because they wanted to showcase different things in that museum, and also totally different use case. You can do quite a lot of different things with it.
Yeah, we also have that museum case, because we use the Matterport 3 scanner. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a scanner for buildings, and it has a 360-degree camera and also LiDAR scanner. And by the LiDAR, it recognizes a structure, and then it's just giving you a 360 picture tour. So you have a very good resolution and the feeling that you're morphing from one 360 image to another.
Yeah.
But it also gives you a 3D model. You can export a 3D model from it. It is not perfect, but it has the whole structure. So you can have a whole museum. And we used another tool from Iceland. It's called Archeo. I don't know, it's from architects. And you can import, usually it's used for architects to have with their customer a virtual experience and build a city or rearrange a city. And it can be like a dollhouse, or you could jump into the scene and be part of the scene.
Cool.
And we used that to upload our model. And then we had a collaborative session with 5 VR glasses, and we did a virtual tour in the museum.
Nice.
It was fun, and we have to do it again and document it by video for our project. But there's one limitation, which is the quality of the scan yet. So the quality of the scan is not perfect. And of course, if it's a whole museum, it's also quite heavy for running around on the glasses. So these are the challenges.
Thanks for sharing the stories. There was one elephant in the glass house I want to draw your attention to. As you know, multiplayer experiences, cross-platform compatibility, co-located XR and remote XR or remote collaboration, that's technically a big thing. So right now we are developing the multiplayer component for our software tool, and by the end of the year it will be rolled out. So we did all the technical feasibility checks. We are currently developing the multiplayer. Cross-platform, meaning laptop to XR, phone to XR, XR to XR.
Okay.
And also in the remote multiplayer. So me in Freiburg, you in Rosenheim, and also with the co-location. So that's what we're currently developing. As of right now, the access you're having will not be able of having multiplayer functionality. So also in the industry environment, everybody is yelling for multiplayer, but usually single player really makes the game, because you want to have it self-sustained and not an expert in the room. But you will also get multiplayer access by the end of the year, just as outlook.
Yeah, we tried out the multiplayer in the Arceo scenario as one for this museum tour, but also in Campfire, where we have that video where we show how you can explain that scanned engine to another person. And in that in-room collaboration, that is really a cool feature. And we were demonstrating it in the German embassy in Italy in last October. We were invited by the Bavarian Ministry to be there and show our application. And we had people trying to take photos of the virtual part in the VR headset. They wanted to take a photo of the engine in front of them.
Yeah. So just you're aware it's coming. Yeah. Funny.
Yeah. Okay. So if we don't have any other questions, we are almost at the end of the session. Do we have any last questions? No, it looks like everybody has so much input now that they have to digest this, and no more questions currently. So thank you very much, Niclas, and thank you very much, Daniel, for showing us your product today. I'm really looking forward to use it. And as you've heard, Aaron is also one of the students really curious looking at it. So yeah, and we have one project probably in pipeline, and I'll get back to you on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.